let's talk about time compression and expansion, which is known as stretching. So if I were to take this part of the audio file right here, let's go ahead and listen to that. If I wanted to make this section of the audio file slower or faster without changing the pitch, or if I wanted to change the pitch, I could, but let's make a selection first. So I'm going to mark that region, then I'm going to click on the time stretching options. And here you've got all sorts of different ways to time stretch. You can do so by duration, tempo, bars, target duration, target tempo, target stretch factor. Then you can choose the methods for how high a quality or how low a quality you want to use. So since this file isn't referenced to any sort of tempo per se, let's just choose the default of target stretch factor. Let's make this target of 80%. And then I'm going to choose to preserve the pitch. So the pitch isn't going to change. It's going to stay the same. But I'm going to use the default preview quality and the standard setting, and then click apply. And you'll notice that down here, it's now 80% of the original, so it's going to be faster without changing the pitch. But you'll notice that the playback is a little bit swimmy sounding, and that's because I'm using the standard quality settings. So I'm going to type Controller-Command-Z and come back under here, and I'm going to use the frequency localization. You can see that parenthetically here it says for complex mixes. So now I'm going to apply that, and you'll notice that the audio quality of that time stretching is going to be much improved. So now let's listen to the result. So it sounds a lot better. Here's the original. Now, if we wanted to make this slower, then I'm going to make a selection. I'm going to change the target stretch factor to 120%. Then, using the same algorithm and the same quality settings, I'm going to click on Apply. So I'm going to fast forward here a little bit, and we can listen to the result. So that's much slower, but because we were using the right algorithm and quality setting, it actually sounds really good. And last, let's talk about changing the phase of the audio file. So if we wanted to flip the entire audio file out of phase, we can click on the invert phase command right here. Most likely, you'll never actually invert the phase of the entire audio file. Instead, you'll be inverting the phase of one of the channels if they happen to be out of phase. And you can determine that by looking at the phase scope window. For example, when you're playing back an audio file that's in phase, you should see this nice spray pattern, depending on if you're looking at low frequencies or high frequencies, and the phase correlation is always in the positive region between 0 and +1. If I were to invert the phase of one of these audio channels, then it's going to push the entire playback out of phase. And if we look at the meter over here, we can see that the spray pattern is actually more of a horizontal pattern than it is a vertical pattern, and the phase correlation meter itself is in the negative range. And the result, when you are playing back stereo information that is out of phase, one channel out of phase with the other, that is, when you play it back in mono, the left and right channels are going to cancel each other out. And I can simulate that by coming down to the channel selection here and choosing Mix to Mono. When I listen to that now, hear how it sounds kind of swimmy and weird? If I were to undo the invert phase command by just undoing the command and then listening to the audio file, now it sounds normal. I'm going to make sure I come back here to go to the default channels. So those are some of the most popular processes that you're going to apply to an audio file. Next, let's talk about the Analyze menu.